Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago, and welcome to another episode, another edition of Pep Talks in the Morning. My name is Felicia Holder, your co-host. Well, your host on a Tuesday and Thursday. Today is Thursday, the 5th of March, and we have a very exciting program ahead. So, today I am alone, but not alone. I'm supposed to be joined a little later in the program by the head of our North Hub, Akil Camps, as well as we're supposed to have 3 call-in sessions with the head of our New York chapter, as well as the head of our Canada chapter, and our South Hub leader, which would be Michelle Davis, and our our Canada leader is Anthony Sinanan, and New York leader is Denise Xavier Superville. And they're going to be calling in a little bit just to touch base with us, touch base with you guys. I know many of you would see their names on Facebook, but this is your opportunity to hear from them, hear the plans for New York and Canada. And with Michelle Davis, she actually wrote an article that was published in the Express yesterday that spoke about the new traffic and driving regulations and the demerit system. So we're going to be getting into that a little bit later in the program, and of course taking your calls from around 7:30. So when preparing for this show, I usually do it a day or two before, because I want to look at what are the hot topics, what are people talking about. And for this morning's show in particular, I feel like the topics were literally just handed to me, because I woke up yesterday and the first thing that I saw on Facebook was a post by a PNM social media blogger, which is what they call them, a very well-known one. And he was actually reposting a comment from, believe it or not, the head of our Canada chapter, our Toronto chapter, Anthony Sinanan. And his post, the post by the PNM blogger, was attempting to explain, or attempting to say rather, that the PEP through our Canada leader Anthony Sinanan, who apparently called him out on an incident, that we were cold-hearted because we did not. Well, we spoke out against the fact that a particular government minister, in this case Maxie Coffey, was afforded over $3 million tax-paying dollars to have overseas medical treatment. Now, when the blogger reposted his comment, Anthony Sinanan had asked the question, for that $3 million, what did we as a nation get? How did we benefit? So I jumped into the conversation. Like I said, I woke up in the morning and the first thing that I noticed was this on my newsfeed. I saw the repost of Anthony's comment, and I saw the long diatribe by the PNM blogger saying that we're so wicked to question the price of a man's life. Why would we question $3 million? And why didn't we question when Kamala and her sister went overseas? You know, the usual, blame the UNC for the PNM's problems, blame the PNM for the UNC problems. What we're accustomed to. But nowhere did he address the question that Anthony had asked, which is, how did we benefit from $3 million tax-paying dollars, not private dollars, not money that Maxie took out of his own pocket as a well-paid government minister, but tax-paying dollars that was used to fund his overseas treatment. Now, moving on in the story, I decided to comment. I don't usually like to get into Facebook battles and Facebook wars because they leave you exhausted. But again, I saw Anthony's question, I saw the PNM blogger's response, but he still never responded to his question, which was, how did we benefit? So myself, Felicia Holder, decided to jump into the conversation, and I asked the question. Just one simple question. I said, you never answered him though. How did we as a nation benefit from the $3 million used to pay Maxie Coffey's medical bill? And from there, my topic of the day evolved, because we had a couple other PNM people jumping in to defend and deflect. And there was one particular comment that is the genesis of this entire conversation today. Because under my question, which asked, what is the cost of Christopher Philip's life? And Christopher Philip, for those who don't know, Christopher Philip was an aged man, 62 or 80, depending on which newspaper report that you read, because there was a whole lot of confusion surrounding his death. Christopher Philip died in June 2017. He was admitted into Port of Spain General Hospital with complaining about pains in his stomach. He came there via ambulance. He was admitted to the accident and emergency room. He was treated and what's that word? Let go. Treated and discharged. And from when he was discharged, they found him on the grass, and they actually carried him back into the hospital. People passed and saw him, writhing in pain on the grass. They carried him into the hospital, where, and this is where the situation gets a little fuzzy, a little murky, and we don't know what really transpired. They apparently carried him back into the hospital, where he apparently discharged himself, or this was the report by the official health report. He discharged himself and later died on the lawn of the hospital. Now, Christopher Phillips, for anybody who knows that story, to me was the epitome of what we are as a failed nation. He represents everything bad in this country, because that incident not only pointed out the shortcomings that we have in terms of our healthcare system and how we treat with people, but it also pointed out the shortcomings as a nation, because I believe that had that been my mother or a family member or friend wriggling, writhing around in pain, that I would have been rioting outside the Port of Spain General Hospital every single day until I got answers as to why this happened to somebody that I loved. But you see, Christopher Philip apparently had no family. He had nobody to plead and protest on his behalf. So his incident, unfortunately, was swept under the carpet. Except for me, it was never forgotten. And yesterday it came alive again in that entire back and forth with this PNM blogger who attempted to justify that $3 million is no cost when you have to consider the price of a man's life. So I asked the question, but what about Christopher Philip? What was the cost of his life? And the response that I got from a woman whose name would not be called, we'll just call her Jennifer, that's her first name, Jennifer. Her response to me was, Felicia Holder, who is Christopher Philip? Which ministry does he lead? What work does he do for this country? Rank has its privileges. So when you sacrifice your family time and take on stress for 1 million ungrateful people, you deserve the best medical treatment. Let those who give the stress check themselves. I'm reading it aloud, and it's the first time I'm reading it aloud since it was said to me, because I was in absolute shock horror. Shock horror was, I think, the exact words to describe how I felt when I read that comment, because she said it so by the way, so nonchalant, that I didn't want to believe that somebody actually believed that. You click on this woman's profile, she's a woman probably about in her 50s, black, probably middle income, middle to lower income. You can't tell so much from somebody's picture these days, because we know Facebook is a whole lie, is a pappy show. But she, from the looks of her, is an ordinary citizen. Could be my aunt, could be my mother's friend. And hearing her, reading her say this, like I said, it was just shocking and horrifying that people can actually think like this. But worse yet were the 9 people who not only liked, but some loved her comment. And I'm thinking, how much do we have to hate ourselves to treat ourselves like this? And like I said, that became the genesis of the topic today, which is the failed healthcare, not just the failed healthcare, but the treatment of Maxi Coffee as a government minister, the haves, and the Christopher Phillips as a ordinary lay servant, the have-nots. And I wanted to know what differentiates him or one from the other. And according to Jennifer, what ministry does he lead? Who is he? And apparently, if you're not anybody important, if you don't have a rank, because rank has its privileges. If you don't have a rank, then you're not entitled to the same kind of healthcare that that Maxi Coffee was afforded. And again, like I say, this started the first discussion for this morning. And one thing I had to note when I started to do research on this story, because I had to pull up the information on Christopher Phillips. This was back in 2017. One of the first things I noticed was that the story on Christopher Phillips were missing from Google. I went to the search engine, there was a link, but the link was broken. So I'm not sure if we are doing a cleanup service on what would be the biggest or one of the biggest shaming stories of our generation. And I would assume so, because it's very embarrassing for anybody to pull up that story and see it wherever you are in the world. Maybe we're doing a cleanup, but deleting the link and deleting the story is not going to hide the reality of what happened back in June 2017. And I was fortunate to find a story, a link from 96.1 WFM, because I was, again, digging up into the circumstances as to why and how this was allowed to happen. And for $6 billion a year, and that's how much we spend in healthcare, for $6 billion a year, I'm trying to understand what happened between the time Christopher Phillips called for an ambulance. What happened between the time the call center dispatchers called to the nearest hospital, which in this case would have been Port of Spain General Hospital, to the time that the ambulance took him to the emergency room, to the time that he was treated and then discharged, to the time that he was discharged and found on the lawn of the hospital, to the time that he was admitted back into the hospital and then eventually signed himself out, to the time that he was found dead on the front lawn of the hospital. What happened between that time? I'm going to take a quick break and come back and get into that soon. Stay tuned.
Antel is Trinidad's most reliable and technically experienced ICT company, providers of quality structured cabling, Cat6 data fiber and power cables. We also stock cabling infrastructure basket-type cable trays for server rooms and data centers. Antel also installs and maintains video security systems including cameras, alarms and electronic entrance locks for businesses and residential properties. Call Antel 674-1406 or 783-9250.
Trinidad and Tobago is in a crisis. For far too long, our people have been abused and silenced by our politicians and the business elite.
Just look around you. People are losing their jobs. Crime is at an all-time high. Our justice, education, and health systems have failed.
We all know the truth behind all that is wrong in our country. Corruption is destroying us. Billions of our dollars are being looted by a small group of business people that use our politicians to divide and distract us,
so they can take what they want, leaving us with no hope for a better country.
All of this is because we've never had leaders who seek the interests of the citizenry as their first priority.
I am here because I'm not taking it anymore.
I am here because I am not taking it anymore.
I am fed up of politics as it is in Trinidad and Tobago.
It is time we elect leaders with the backbone and the love of our people to go after the corrupt, evil elements in our country, hell-bent on serving their own pockets while we suffer.
And it is time that we as a nation take a collective stand against wrongdoing.
So we are making a plea to the nation to rally behind us.
Because our freedom of speech is being threatened by those who don't want us speaking out on these issues.
A man that I greatly respect is one of those leaders fighting for a better country. His name is Philip Edward Alexander, and he has bravely challenged the people and institutions that are destroying our nation.
To date, he has been threatened with 5 lawsuits for having the courage to ask state agency UDCOT on why the renovations of the President's house cost $89 million.
When experts in the field have estimated that that job should have never crossed 20 million.
Where did the rest of our money go? We refuse to stand by and allow any agency to use our courts to try and silence and punish Philip or any other citizen of our country for trying to seek the truth.
If you're fed up of corruption and want to be a part of real change, support Philip and the Progressive Empowerment Party in this fight.
This fight is not for him or us to bear alone.
It is a fight for you, our loved ones, and our friends.
It is a fight for the future of our country.
You can help by making a contribution to Philip's legal fees and help him and PEP expose the truth and shine light over the darkness of corruption.
Go to our website at peptt.com, click on donate, and see all the ways you can pitch in.
There is hope. Our country can be saved, but we all need to stand together. My name is Felicia Holder, Chairman of the Progressive Empowerment Party, and I support Philip Edward Alexander and the PEP.
I support Philip Edward Alexander and the PEP.
I support Philip Edward Alexander and the PEP.
I support.
I support.
I support.
I support.
I support.
I support.
I support. I support.
I support.
I support.
I support.
I support Philip Edward Alexander and the PEP.
And we're back, and we are on the topic of public health, or rather the failure of public health here in Trinidad and Tobago. And we're on the topic of Christopher Phillips, a man who died on the front lawn of the Port of Spain General Hospital back in 2017. And we're actually comparing his life and, well, subsequent death to the treatment of Maxi Coffey, a government minister who was afforded over $3 million in healthcare treatment back in 2018 on taxpayers' funds. We're actually joined in studio by Akil Camps,
morning,
head of our North Hub. He ran a little bit late this morning, so I warmed up the seat without him, but he's here to help me bring the fire and talk a little bit more, expose this topic actually, because it's one that I think deserves a very thorough, at least a very thorough coverage from both of us. And for you joining us on the live, feel free to drop your comments and your questions that you can save for later on in the show. Akil, I was saying before we went to break that I was looking for information on Christopher Phillips and could find almost none. It's almost as if they scrubbed the internet clean of what was happening.
Why would they do that? They're crazy.
That, like I was telling the viewers earlier, that had to be one of the biggest stains and shameful moments in the history of the nation of this country. Because, again, I mean, I'm looking at all of the things that are supposed to bring us national pride, the Red House and the President's House and Whitehall and all the things that's supposed to I guess, cover with paint, literally, the shame and the sting of things like what happened to Christopher.
Forget about that. Look at that. Yeah.
Forget about Christopher Phillips. That poor black old man.
He's a nobody.
He's a nobody.
And the attitude is that.
And the attitude is that.
And then they will come to fool us and tell us stuff like they taking it seriously. I have something the minister was in loop. Right? Let me read it. Hear what he said. Due to the very serious nature of the circumstances surrounding the death of Mr. Philip at Port of Spain General Hospital, the Ministry of Health wishes to advise the public that it is conducting its own comprehensive investigation into this matter.
I have the follow-up to that story. And the I just need to read the headlines to explain it all. Ministry finds that they are not culpable. for the death of Christopher Phillip. And that to me was one of the most angering parts of this entire story, that at the end of it, after all that happened, after he was transmitted from the ambulance to the emergency room, then discharged, then admitted, then discharged himself, then found dead, that after that entire chain of, or that series of incidents, nobody, nowhere, nothing was found. And
thank God for this lady, Lystra Alexis. If she
that's the person who videotaped the entire incident on the lawn.
And I mean, who you gonna believe? Because we have Mrs. Alexis saying, she said she observed MTS workers bring the man out of the hospital and lay him in the car park, stating that he has been discharged and they had been instructed to remove him. And then we have the CEO, Sheldon Cyrus, refuting those claims, right? He said the elderly gentleman was not denied treatment. All right.
If he wasn't denied treatment, if nothing was wrong, I have to ask the question: how did he manage to be discharged? And I don't want to go in too much.
He managed to die.
How he managed to die, exactly. And that's that question in itself is a very serious one, because if somebody is discharged, and never mind him discharging himself, which I don't really believe, but never mind that part which happened after. Before he discharged himself, he was admitted into the hospital via ambulance. He was treated and then subsequently discharged.
Yeah, but think about what our idea of treatment in our hospital though.
But as an Akil, how does somebody go from being declared fit enough to be discharged and then dead some hours later? How do you go from that? And I said it earlier, we spend $6 billion a year on healthcare. $6 billion. And for people who don't understand that, let me break down the billion, because some people still confuse billions with millions. $6 billion a year on healthcare is roughly $17 million a day we spend in public healthcare. $17 million a day.
You sure you work your maths good there?
I am positive I work my maths good there. Akil, we spend in this country $17 million a day on public health care. What do we have to show for it? What do we have to show for it? We never have medicine in the hospitals. We have no masks in the hospital. People getting dates 2 and 3 years to come back for appointments or for serious ailments. I will never forget one of our peppers, Daniel Ishmael, his aunt, I believe, sustained a fall carnival week Monday, and she had to go for treatment, and they told her that she had to come back, a broken wrist I believe she had to go for treatment. And when you're in pain and when you have a serious injury that requires surgery, how do you tell somebody stick a pin in that and come back at this date?
But I have a family member, they told her after the test they were doing heart, they checked her heart, they say only 30-something% of your heart working, and we will be booking you for a next visit next year. I think it was March or something, and that was somewhere around July the year before.
Do you think this is a ploy to get people to die without them having to be accountable and is this a ploy? Because I have to believe that if you have somebody dying or somebody with serious medical issues coming to you and you tell them come back next year, you have to obviously have signed a death warrant on their head.
No, they would not die. We have other institutions that you could go and pay and get it.
And then that's the thing, because this same woman who sustained her fall and broke her arm or her wrist had to go and pay $30,000, which I believe was her traveling fund. She was planning a retirement trip to Switzerland, evaporated. evaporated in one go. But then again, you remember, rank has its privileges. If you're a government minister, you can get that expedited, or you can get flown out to some foreign institution. And I wonder to anybody thinking or not, let me clarify one time. It's not that I don't believe that Maxie Cuffy wasn't deserving of a $3 million tax paid treatment. It's not that at all. It's that I believe Christopher Phillips was also deserving of the $17 million that we spent per day on treatment. How is it that one man can benefit from tax paying funds, whereas another man can't? What is it about being a regular citizen of Trinidad and Tobago that doesn't afford you the opportunities? What is it about being in government that allows you? Because we have our own Prime Minister who chooses to seek his health treatment abroad. So then he's basically saying that the treatment and the hospitals that we get is not good enough.
No, and that should piss off everybody in Trinidad and Tobago.
It should, but the other question is, for those who have to deal with the situation here, and those who can't fly out abroad to get treatment, and those who don't have the rank that allows them the privilege to get $3 million aside from the $17 million a day spent on tax-paying funds for healthcare, for those who don't have access to those elite perks of being in government office, why aren't you speaking up about it? Why aren't you saying something about it? Like I said, after that happened to Christopher Phillips, after like Liz just said, the gentleman was unable to stand or walk and he was discharged and they were instructed to move him. After this happened, after they found him lying down on the grass, moving around in pain, why didn't we riot? Why didn't we stand outside the Port of Spain General Hospital and protest until we got answers? Why didn't that happen?
Because that was as Philip say, the wolf didn't reach a lot of people's door, so it's nothing for them. And there's something that I don't know at which point Trinidad and Tobago lost it, but we lost compassion. We pass people on the street. I must admit, sometimes it happens with me. I remember seeing a guy sitting down on the pavement, or he was lying down close to the road, and I was like, stop, check him, don't stop, stop, check him, don't stop. And I was like questioning myself, and then after I passed, and I was like, hey, turn around, go back and see what's going on with that man. And it's because of fear crime also. So everything having an effect on everything else in this country, and it getting worse. It's getting worse. And we're not getting the examples from the top in terms of dealing with certain things. And I think that's what we need. We need a proper example to look at. We need somebody setting the pace for the change in Trinidad and Tobago.
Which is the Progressive Empowerment Party. Exactly. I have to say that, and I have to insert that here, because it's not enough to just talk about the failure of public health. It's not enough to throw figures like $17 million a day around and point out the problems that we face. It's not enough to do that. You have to have or present the public with some kind of solution. And for those who are fed up and who, they may not be brave or willing to take it out into the streets, but there's also the fact that you have an option for change. And I think for too long we have sat down and believed that nothing can be done. And maybe that's a problem, not maybe, that is a problem with Trinbagonians, that they feel literally beaten into submission. And there has never been a ray of hope or something to look forward to in until now, in terms of better government, and in terms of looking forward to better. One of my greatest fears, Akil, and I believe it or not, is to find out that I have, or a close family member of mine has, a serious medical issue and has to go to the hospital for treatment is one of my fears, like absolute fear, because I'm terrified of what I will have to face in the hospital. I don't know anybody to call. I don't have rank to pull to say I know this doctor, I know that one, to get special or better treatment. And you know that's what you have to do now if you want to survive. I don't have that. So I'm terrified of ever having to be in a situation where I have to rely on the public healthcare service, because I've seen people close to me, I've seen people in my circle. I lost a hairdresser to cancer about 5 years ago, and it was hard for me to watch her literally wither away and deteriorate, not because the cancer was that aggressive, but because she couldn't access the treatment that she needed in a timely manner. And for anybody who knows or have experienced a loved one dying because of cancer, cancer is a very, very aggressive disease, and without treatment, without the proper treatment, because no one person is treated the exact same way with cancer, but without that specialized treatment, your odds of survival are very low. And because we have such a failed public healthcare system in this country, it's worse. The survival rates of people with cancer are very low. I lost my grandmother actually to pancreatic cancer back in 2012. Actually, the anniversary of that, February the 12th, 2012, or this year, February 12th, 2020, would have been 8 years since she passed away. And for me, that was a traumatizing experience, because my grandmother, I was the apple of her eye. They used to say I was her youngest, her second youngest grandchild. And I was, like I say, we were very close because of that. Our birthdays were one day apart. I was the 18th of May. I am the 18th of May. She was the 19th. And seeing her, because first they said she had eye problems, and she did a lot of surgery on her own in the hospital to deal with the eye problems, and then later on they found out that it was pancreatic cancer, which was in fact impacting her eyes. So as we know, well, I don't know how many people have dealt or know anybody who had pancreatic cancer, but pancreatic cancer is actually one of the most, or is the most difficult cancer to treat, because it doesn't show up very early. You have to literally by miracle find that you have pancreatic cancer. And when they did eventually find out that she had it, it was not just too late, but it was also treated with, maybe I am biased, maybe I'm too close to it, but losing her in that way wasn't fair. It wasn't right, because I saw how she was treated in the hospitals, and I was like, why isn't this happening faster? Why isn't this happening sooner? When is this surgery? And everything was moving like today for tomorrow. Take your time. And in my mind, I'm like, this woman has cancer, an aggressive form of cancer. Why isn't she being treated with the same aggressive kind of treatment? And since then, watching her, like I say, wither away, since then I have had absolute no faith in our public healthcare system. And seeing other incidents and hearing about other people, and knowing about my hairdresser and a few others who would have lost their lives. Some people even lost their lives, in my opinion, needlessly.
For sure.
And seeing it has given me absolute zero faith in not just our failed healthcare, but in the failed government ministers who have been in charge of healthcare for the past 57 years. Because how did we allow our public health to get so bad?
Well, let me ask you a question. If this lady, Miss Alexis, didn't film this, you think we don't know about it?
We probably would not have known about it.
Nothing.
And that was one of the biggest shames, that Christopher Phillips did not have many family members to step forward and champion his death on his behalf. And I believe, had that been the case, we would have probably gotten a different answer, different result out of it, other than we're not accountable, he discharged himself. And that was actually the argument used by people yesterday to defend the comment used by this very disgusting woman, and I call her disgusting. I said, you know, because you're a human being, should this happen to you, should this happen to your family member, would you like somebody to watch you and watch them and say rank has its privileges? And
don't worry, karma, don't worry.
I actually don't want karma to come and because karma would most likely come in the form of a continuance of this failed public health care. And should a Progressive Empowerment Party government come into fruition, I definitely know that we would address public health care from a very holistic level. And in looking at Christopher Phillips and what was happening to him, the number one thing that I have to harp on in our plans and proposals for public health care is that chain of accountability. Because I kept asking, what happened between the time he placed that call, or whoever placed that call, and the time that he was found dead on the lawn? Because we propose not just having 41 public healthcare, 41 healthcare facilities, not just having those institutions, but also having that chain of command, which from the time you place a call requesting an ambulance, they can ask the right questions that can determine what kind of treatment you as an individual would need. So from the time you're on the phone with the call center, they're asking questions like, where is the pain? How long have you had this pain? What are you experiencing? Did you take any medication? What kind of treatment did you seek before? And all of the questions that can help them drill down to exactly what the paramedics need to put on that ambulance to have and save your life. So from there, the paramedics who pick you up, they are now responsible for your life. The chain of accountability continues. They are in the ambulance doing everything that they can to save your life, whether it's pumping your chest, applying, giving you medication, giving you an injection. I'm not sure all of the medical terms, but as the paramedics, their job, the point of them is to save your life, keep you alive long enough to get you to the emergency room.
And while they're doing that, they will be prepping the hospital, letting them know what's coming.
Telling the hospital, we are coming with this man, he's experiencing these problems, we suspect it may be this. You have to prepare treatment ready and waiting for him. Again, this happens in a first world nation, so it's not a rocket science that we would expect it to happen here
and we do have to
in our little banana republic. We do not have to reinvent the wheel. You reach to the accidents and emergency department, they're there, they take you off of the stretcher, they're speaking to the paramedics to find out what kind of treatment you got, what treatment, to determine what kind of treatment they follow up with. And they're there in the accident and emergency, and they're applying or giving you the treatment that you need. And they either admit you into the hospital when you're stabilized or discharge you. For a man to end up dead hours after he was discharged means he was not properly diagnosed, and he was obviously not given the correct treatment that he needed. He didn't go home and die. He didn't leave and come back next week and then die.
But his condition, the state he was in, from what Listra is saying, okay, let's say he was discharged, they check him and he's good. You gonna just allow somebody in that condition, man, I mean, because he wasn't walking or anything like that, to leave without having somebody come for him, like a family member or something? Because when you go, they ask you, he have no family members. Cool. Well, then we have a situation here and social services should step in.
But exactly that, Akil. How was he allowed to discharge himself? And was that just a story told to us for them to avoid accountability? But wind back, go back a little bit. Before he discharged himself, when he was treated in the accident,
if he was treated
in the accident and emergency room, how did nobody pick up on the fact that this man was obviously not well? And the fact that nobody picked up on it, Akil, points to me that there was some kind of malpractice or some error in judgment, either on the nurse's part, on the doctor's part, on even the medic's part who brought him into the hospital, something wasn't done right.
It could be a next swing to that also. Because if you, a lot of the time we hear nurses say they understaffed, it had no doctor on the ward and all of this nonsense. And I mean, when you're watching the full room and you're understaffed, it's frustrating too. So on the nurses and the probably doctors side, they getting hampered, right, by the lack of support, probably funding, probably medical apparatus, materials to work with, masks, gloves, as the case now, and this affects your mentality too. Now, some people wouldn't stick around for that kind of treatment. Some people have no choice. At the end of the day, they have to live.
Yeah.
They need an income. So they stick around and they try to work with what they have. Some people try harder than others. Let's put it that way. But it is frustrating, and that's one of the things that also need fixing.
Definitely. The frustration of the healthcare workers, I cannot even begin to imagine how it is to operate in an environment where you are short-staffed, which I do understand it, because the majority, and at least they claim that the majority of that $17 million a day or $6 billion a year that we spend on healthcare goes into salaries. So I don't understand how we're so short-staffed. I have to believe we are not properly, we're not using our resources in the best way that we can, and we're frustrating people to the point where they no longer care about their work. And it's a sad place to be, especially as a healthcare professional, to no longer care about your work. And you hear about people getting rough treatment, you hear about people being, abused verbally by medical staff. And I want to believe they're the bad ones, but I also want to believe that they're good ones who just frustrated, and that's not an excuse.
I know nurses who they take their own money out of their own pocket and buy things. Sometimes they don't have gloves, sometimes they don't have masks, and they buy it on
for $17 million a day, Akil. We do have these things.
No, we had the other day. We sent to China to help them out. Right. Although I saw a news clip last week before that there's no mask in the country, but don't worry, we sent some to China. Oh, I don't understand that. If you have a surplus or something and you want to help out, cool. But at least make sure.
Feed your people before you feed
others.
Oh
God. Well, I mean,
I want to go back to something that you said earlier, though, where you spoke about you don't know if it was negligence, and that's another concern that I have, and it's one that the Progressive Empowerment Party, like I said, should we have the chance to fix this country and really restructure public health care as it is. Mortality conferences are something that we need to get accustomed doing in this country, because it's unacceptable that we can have a report, an entire investigation into Christopher Phillips' situation and find nothing. It is unbelievable to me that a man could be alive 1 minute and then dead a couple minutes later, and nothing, nowhere in that chain of command was anybody found responsible. Was there any explanation for why he died? We have to definitely put these things in place, because we need to know that the people in charge of treating our citizens, that the people, the professionals that are responsible for your life from the time you call to the time you are discharged, that they're doing their utmost best to save your life. That is the point of health. That is the point of a paramedic. That's the point of an ambulance. That's the point of accidents and emergency. That's the point of doctors. That is the point of nurses. That is the point of hospital staff. You are there to treat people and keep them alive. That is your one job. You have one job.
The crazy thing also, no matter what this man's situation was in terms of if he was in the right mental state, if it was physical, whatever, there is a solution. In other words, if one cares enough, a person can sit down and work out, okay, how are we going to deal with this man, right? Because they try to say all kind of thing, and it's like they say, well, look, we had no choice, we just had to put him out, right? That's probably what went on. This man giving trouble, or he always come in and he never had no problem, and just put him out. And it seems to me that was the picture. But anyway, okay, if he has a mental issue, all right, you're referring to St. Anne's. Okay, so you tell, listen, we need to do some checks on you. This, that, the other. Put him in an ambulance, if it have one, or maybe the ambulance will shut down somewhere, and send him St. Anne's to get checkup, to get assistance there, to get help there, right? If it is he okay, but he just have no family and he's struggling, social services. Bringing social services, listen, we all need to help out this man. Why we don't have no places? Well, we probably have, but take him, help him out, check his situation, assess him, right? Don't just let him out. Don't just let him out. Do something, be considerate, figure out what's going on with this man, and let's figure out how to help him. It must have a way to help him.
To do that and to do those things, Akil, we need to have a nation that works. We need to have a country that works and cares about other people. And for that to happen, you need a Progressive Empowerment Party government to come in and clean up all of the mess that we have gotten accustomed living in. The mess of the healthcare and the failed healthcare system, the mess of social services and social development, the mess of our mental hospital. And I saw some pictures this week of was it St. Anne's? I believe it was St. Anne's mental hospital. The mess of all of that needs to be cleaned up, because for the money that we're spending on this nation in healthcare and in other things in social development, you're not seeing it.
We're not seeing that.
And the fact that you can hear comments like it's going into overinflated goods and overinflated costs and going under the table and going into contracts, the fact that you can hear that is an indication that we have long failed, and it is time that we have a government that is interested, that has the political will to fix these things. Because it's unacceptable for me to hear that we're paying $50 for a box of gloves that you could buy for $5 on Amazon. It's unacceptable for me when the end result can be a man like Christopher Phillips on the loan dine. And when we tell people that the Red House equals your failed public healthcare system and the President's house equals the fact that you can call an ambulance and one not come in 2 hours or not come at all, when we equate these things, is to show people just how corruption and all of the nefarious behaviors that we have grown accustomed to and know in the back of our minds and sweep under the carpet, how it trickles down to you, the average citizen, how it trickles down to your family, how it trickles down to Christopher Phillips, and the fact that you don't have the rank to allow you the privilege to escape those conditions should tell you that it is going to affect you sooner or later. Corruption is impacting everything that is wrong in this country, because like I told somebody yesterday, the fish rots from the head down. Everything that we see that we experience in a negative way in this country is because it is happening up on top, and it is happening and it is not being stopped by citizens. Nobody's speaking out. And beside
no people have to fear. I heard of a story, a healthcare worker, I'm not gonna call name areas or anything like that. This health office closes a certain time, right? And they address the patients waiting. Listen, we only seeing one more patient because we close in X time. So you all will have to come back tomorrow. And after that, a guy comes in, right? And so the lady informed him, listen, we already have patients inside and we have to close it, so we won't be able to see you. You have to come back tomorrow. And the guy proceeds now to say, you don't know who I am? she said, well, sir, we closing now and they don't get paid overtime and thing and that.
Was he somebody with a rank?
Right? So, yes. Anyway, so the guy started to get a little abusive and the woman stood up for her rights. She said, right? So he then proceeded to film her, right? At the point in time when he pissed her off, so obviously she's going to defend herself, right? And then proceeds to send that footage to some big shot, right? So anyway, the long and short of it is that she was removed, right?
From her position?
She was removed. I don't know if it was fired or transferred somewhere else, or I'm not sure. But that incident affected her whole life. And as far as I understand, she was a very good worker. She was one of those that really cared.
Yeah.
Right? But that incident, because of someone with rank.
Also, what stood out to me was the fact that the health care or the health center, or was it a health center that he went to?
Yeah.
Was closing. And before we go to a break, because I do want to play the PEP healthcare video that we would have done 5 minutes or a little more than 3 minutes to better healthcare. I do want to talk about our entire plan, which would be explained in the video. But the Progressive Empowerment Party intends to decentralize healthcare to all 41 constituencies. And when I first heard that, I was like, 41? That's a lot. But actually, it's just enough to make sure that all 35,000 to 40,000 people in each constituency gets the fast and immediate health care that they need. You don't need to be living in Sandy Grande to be transferred to Port of Spain because the Sandy Grande Hospital doesn't deal with burns. You don't need to be living in Port of Spain and be transferred to Moncton because they don't deal with gunshot wounds. And I'm being a little silly here, but the reality is we should have 41 fully equipped, fully outfitted health centers that can deal with accidents and emergencies on a 24/7 basis. 24/7, because health and accidents and emergencies know no time.
Exactly.
So the fact that you can have an issue and be told come back tomorrow in an emergency case is absolutely unacceptable. Or know that you have to drive down to Port of Spain or drive to your nearest or the centralized healthcare system. Decentralized healthcare to the 41 constituencies where citizens and members of that constituency have access to fast and speedy health and healthcare treatments. We also
faster ambulance too.
Faster ambulance service. Of course, that mortality conference is something that we definitely want to implement because we have too many cases of unforeseen deaths happening here in the country. We hear about women losing their babies, people dying under very questionable circumstances, and nothing being, well, no proper investigation, I would say, because the answers to the investigations are always that the hospital is not culpable or they are not accountable to what happened.
The thing is, one thing is covering it up and not letting something get out into the public. But, okay, if they do that and still put something in place to not allow it to happen again, well, then we could take that as a win.
And that is it. That's what we need. We need to, like you said, if something happens and it really was an issue, covering it up is not going to fix the issue for another time. It is just going to make the issue go on and on and on because nobody is accountable. We have no idea what caused the issue. So it's just going to continue happening. And again, accountability, which is something that I want to hound. Accountability, we need to have it. I need to know that I am responsible for my job. And if I don't do my job, I will be held accountable for it, because every job has some level of accountability. Every employee who gets paid knows that there's something that they can be fired over. An offshore worker knows that if I consume drugs, there's a possibility I may be drug tested and I lose my job. Accountability also needs to happen in our public health system, because we're dealing with lives, we're dealing with people's lives, and the job is to save people's lives. Anyway, I think we really covered this topic in full. We are going to go to a break and play that policy video. When we come back, we're going to have a call with our overseas chairman, plural of chairman is chairman, with our chairs, the overseas chairs of the of our New York office and our New York chapter and our Toronto chapter, Denise Xavier Superville and Anthony Sinanan. We will be back after this break to speak with them.
The gentleman has a wealth of knowledge and experience, and it's time that we tapped into it, because we can't just keep focused on what's wrong if we don't start having a conversation about what could be right. And I'm here with Mr. Bastio Pandey, former Prime Minister. Is there anything you want to say, getting the ball rolling? The lead off, anything you want to ask, anything, because it's a conversation, it's not an interview.
Yes, shoot from both hips.
Public health in Trinidad and Tobago is a catastrophe. It is a fiasco. It is the 6th and 7th circles of hell. Some people say public health in Trinidad is sickening. The Prime Minister agrees. Judging by his latest decision, 4.5 years later, as Prime Minister, the man who spent upwards of $25 billion on public health in this country has chosen once again to seek his own health care in other jurisdictions. Public health in Trinidad and Tobago has never worked to the benefit of the public under no government at no time. We, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, are spending money we do not have, building hospitals we do not need, in a public health system that does not work. The Progressive Empowerment Party suggests that in place of the fiasco that exists as our public health system, that we replace it all with 41 public health centers, one for each constituency, operated 24/7, managed by nurse practitioners with on-call doctors capable of treating dental, optical, and medical emergencies, to function as 41 emergency rooms in this country, equipped even for minor stabilization surgeries and with dedicated ambulance service. This would function far better than the chaos of the centralized public health system that does not work. How it should work, how it works in foreign jurisdictions. A call to a call center should be answered by a trained operator who knows how to ask proper questions so as to guide paramedics listening in on the line as to what your condition might be, so that they can prepare to treat with you when they arrive. The call to that call center that identifies your location plugs in GPS coordinates that guides the ambulance directly to you, so they don't have to call asking for further directions, looking for landmarks. A call to a call center that guides the ambulance to your house in under 10 minutes, the magic time that science suggests required to save patients in emergencies such as heart attack, stroke, and other massive failure. The paramedic operated ambulance is stocked and equipped with everything to treat with just about every emergency. But in specialized cases, there are special kits that they could add in quick time. And that is why the questions that a trained operator asking would advise them and guide them, so that when they come to you, your treatment begins during transportation. The paramedics then take full responsibility for you and initiate conversation with the closest emergency room where they're taking you. The doctor on call or the person in charge would then exchange information with the paramedics so as to further guide the treatment that is being done while you're being transported to the emergency room, and the emergency room would be preparing to receive you. Arriving at the hospital, the paramedics are greeted by the emergency room team, who takes full control of you, guides you into the treatment room, puts you onto a bed, releases the stretcher, and releases the paramedics and the ambulance. In a first world country, at that point, the emergency room staff are responsible for you, and they treat and discharge you, or they treat and admit you to hospital for further treatment. If at any point along the way the worst should occur and you expire, there are morbidity and mortality conferences that you can request beyond an autopsy if suspicion exists that someone along the way was remiss in their responsibility or negligent. And everyone in that chain, from the operator at the call center to the ambulance driver, the paramedic, the emergency room team, and any doctors and nurses treating with you after, are aware that there are serious consequences for malpractice, including charges of depraved indifference to human life. This is the level of public health we are entitled to in this country. We spend $5 billion a year for our public health and get this fiasco in exchange. Isn't it time we did better? The Progressive Empowerment Party says so, and says that there are people in the world that we could hire and empower and employ to provide proper, adequate, professional, first world public health in Trinidad and Tobago, as described before. We can have a better country. We can have proper health care. It's a matter of voting, it's a matter of choice. What we do next is important. I am Philip Edward Alexander, and this has been a little more than 3 minutes to a better Trinidad and Tobago.
We are back live in studio with Akil Camps, and we are also joined on the phone by Denise Xavier Superville, the head of our New York chapter. Denise, good morning.
Good morning, Felicia. Good morning, Akil.
Morning.
Denise. I am so glad that you can join us this morning. I think a lot of people see your name on Facebook, but they have never actually heard your voice. So this is their opportunity to hear live and direct from Denise Xavier Superville herself, the head of our New York chapter.
Good morning, fellow Peppers. Good morning to my U.S. chapter, my U.S. Peppers, and I am happy to be here.
Denise, you all are doing so much work right now overseas. Like, for the year already that has just started, you've done a soup sale, you've sent barrels for the barrel sale. What else do you have going on in the pipeline? Tell me more about what is happening in the PEP New York chapter.
Okay, coming on board with the PEP chapter 2018 July, there were many people in the New York area, Queens, New Jersey area, who were very interested in supporting what is happening in Trinidad. Many of them have family members there, and a lot of them, interestingly enough, would like to come back home once they've retired. So we got together and we started working in group to ensure that we can assist Trinidad and our party PEP and our leader Philip Alexander to make things better for when we return. We did have a very successful 2018 and 2019, our office was developed and we sent the barrels. For 2020, we have decided to increase our sending so that we can build a party enough that gives us the opportunity to do what our desire is, which is to come home. So we had the soup sale the beginning of the year, and thank God that was successful. For this month, which is March, we are doing a casino bus run, which is being handled by our social planner Celia Smith and Celia Elliott. At this time, I understand that we have also sold out. That will be the 21st of this month, March. For April, we resume our barrel events so that we can have these barrels sent down for Trinidad to do their portion of our fundraising. May, we're looking at having a boat ride / fashion show that is just in the works and being discussed by the New York team. We're looking at having an event in the park, a summer event for the Peppers in New York, coming up this summer. We're also looking into having a summer party, a Brooklyn-style summer party coming up over the July-August. And one of the things that we are definitely taking names for at this time is to devise a charter for people who are able to vote for the elections to come home and do so whenever the dates are set. Beyond that, we are just going to wait and see what happens for our barrel come September, and that brings us down to the end of the year, which we close with our Christmas party. So far, those are the things we have.
Sounds like a very, very busy chapter. Like you're putting us to shame, Denise.
We have some amazing people. It's just unbelievable. They do stand very, very strong in supporting what is being done in Trinidad. We know the problems we face there. We are doing our utmost to support whatever you guys, Trinidad headquarters, PEP, requires and desires of us.
Thank you for that, Denise. And one thing that you said, and I want to encourage people, if you are based overseas and you're not yet part of the New York team, please contact Denise Xavier Superville to get on board. You don't want to say that you were not a part of this history-making movement called the Progressive Empowerment Party. And the fact that we have extended all the way into New York and Canada and Florida and the UK, Australia, even we have Peppers there. The fact that we have extended there is testament to, you know, the fact that we have so many Peppers, not just Peppers, so many citizens who are just tired and they want to be able to retire and come home. Denise, I know you're one of them. I know you're one of those people who has a navel string buried here deep in Trinidad.
What I have to say here is that although we are in the New York area, we have had support from Peppers that are in Delaware, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Virginia, North Dakota, South Dakota. We've had people calling for membership forms from all these different states, which we do mail out, by the way, and it's then sent back to us in New York.
Very nice.
So although we're in the New York area, we do have people across the U.S. that are very interested in supporting and has supported the soup sale. You guys know who you are. No need to try and call the names. We are very thankful for the support that you have given us to make that past event a success.
Denise, I also want to thank you for the hard work and the efforts that you have been putting out when you stepped into this position last year, back in 2018. Time is flying. And when you stepped into this position, Denise, you were an ordinary member of the PEP New York team, and you came out of nowhere. And I always tell people that Denise just came out of nowhere, but in the right time and in the right position, because many people come to PEP and they talk, they say a lot, and we should do this and you all should do that, and they give us ideas and solutions, and we always tell them, we have a mantra in the PEP:
take it and run.
If you come up with an idea, take it and run with it. Denise did not even need to be told that. Denise came up with the ideas and she ran all the way with it, and she's now the head of the PEP New York team. The entire PEP chapter, and building what I believe is a very strong team below her, a strong team that can even stand on its own, you can say, should they need to.
Just be aware that I did not live in New York when I came on board. I saw you 2 o'clock in the morning was in my head for many years, and I knew that that was the direction I wanted to go. I have followed him, and he has taught me so much about the deficits of self, meaning half of what he's sharing with me, living in Trinidad, I had no clue. I had absolutely no clue. We just had such a grand time. We lived a grand life, not realizing that there were so many people that were really struggling. And I have to say thank you so much to this man who has brought all this information forward for me, and I'm almost certain for so many others, which is why I keep fighting and holding on to this group, the PEP.
And Denise, your fight is felt all the way here in Trinidad and Tobago. Like I said, we cannot do this without the help of our overseas chapters. You guys have been so instrumental in not just fundraising, but in actually bringing us closer together, because you find that there are Trinbagonians all over the globe, and the fact that we have these hubs set up for them to actually come. Somebody from your chapter visited us about 2 weeks ago, and he spoke praises of the New York chapter, and that is just testament to the fact that you all are doing an amazing job up there in New York, and I really thank you for that.
One of the things I feel strongly is the unit and the unity that has been created because of this PEP group. I am speaking to people that I have never met, but I can feel the love and the bond and the caring that we all have in common. Anthony Sinanan, I've never met him, but I feel as though he's family. The people in the Florida chapter, we talk on the phone like we know each other, and that is because of what PEP has been doing to all of us. Race, creed, and kind is under one umbrella, and that is the truth. We don't see who you are. We feel your heart, and your heart says better for Trinidad and Tobago. And with that in mind, we have held strong and continue to build and grow with each other in a way that we have lost. So again, I am thankful to PEP. I am thankful to Philip for giving us this opportunity and all these parts to make the whole.
Thank you, Denise. Akil had a question for you.
Hi, Denise. What I wanted to say is that sometimes people think that when you leave your country, you put it behind you and that's the end of that. And I'm so proud to see and realize that a lot, or if given the opportunity, all Trinis living away would join this movement. It seems so, right? Because you all want to see your birthplace get better and things improve and probably resemble a little of what you see up there for yourself.
No, a little of what we knew in the past. It was there before. Whatever has happened has deteriorated the situation, but we had it.
Right.
We had it even more than we had here, except of course for the health centers, the health situations, etc., etc. But those can be built. Right. Those can be built. The school system can be rebuilt. I sent my children back to school in Trinidad, and they had an education and came back to the US and have all three excelled. So the academic capability does exist. The administration is where we have the problem.
Right.
Indeed.
Right. A few years ago, actually 3 years ago, I was seriously considering migrating to Canada, and I actually started the process.
What?
Yeah, serious. And then I saw Philip on Facebook, and he stopped me straight in my tracks, because I was like, I say, okay, but we might have a chance here of making our country better than how it is. And I told the lady who I was dealing with, I said, listen, you have to give me till the next election, and then I'll decide what I'm doing, because there's hope. There's hope in PEP.
There is finally hope in PEP. Yeah. Oliver Marin is saying on the live that Denise, he loves you and he feels your honesty. He wants you to come home and contest the seat. I wish that you can do that. I would love that.
Oliver Marin.
Oliver Marin said so, yes. Denise, thank you very much for joining us. If somebody wants to be a part of the New York chapter, if they want to get in contact with you, how can they reach you?
347 500 1457 1457. Please feel free to call. Many times I may not be able to answer the phone, but if you call 11 o'clock in the night, by the next day you will get a response. So certainly keep calling. I send out membership all the time. Anything you request of us, we try our best to make sure and fulfill on behalf of our PEP Trinidad headquarters.
And I can testify to that. Denise, thank you, my darling, for joining us. I really loved having you on the show this morning. And we will... Somebody said you don't sleep. I don't know why you're taking calls at 11 o'clock in the night. Celia Smith says... Celia will know. Celia knows that you don't sleep. Good morning, Celia Smith from PEP New York. Your team, they're awake this morning watching you and listening to you on the program.
Yeah, thanks very much for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, Denise, we will chat.
Okay, bye-bye.
That was Denise Xavier Superville, the chairman of our PEP New York team. We're actually going to try and reach Anthony Sinanan now, who is the head of our PEP Toronto or PEP Canada team. Anthony, we're calling you live and direct now. Good morning. I hear the delay and I'm hearing my voice in the back. Good morning, Anthony.
Morning, Anthony.
Good morning, guys. How are you this morning?
We're good. Even better now that we're speaking to you.
Yeah, well, you guys get me out of bed early this morning. You know, we are an hour behind and we're living in an igloo, so we try to keep warm as much as we can. You guys are doing a great job trying to educate Trinidad and Tobago as to what's happening. Like, I mean, we, John and myself, we are accidental Canadians. We came up here, we were teachers in Trinidad, and during this summer vacation, we decided to come up and spend some time. Joan had a sister up here, I had an uncle, and we came up for the long vacation, and then we decided to stay. It was one of those moments, you know, we at that time could have just gone in and applied, and we applied and we were accepted and we got married and had children. So there was never the intention to come to Canada. It's like now people are saying, oh, I'm going to migrate to Canada, and no, it was never our intention to come here to live, but we did, and we have a great life. Our kids are all living on their own, married, have their own careers and stuff like that, and you know, it was never let's leave Trinidad because of what was happening. Now we have, as you all know, I can get up at any time of the night and go turn on a tap and be guaranteed there's water. And I know that's not the case with Trinidad. So when Philip, again, listening at night, and we caught on to Philip, you know, I decided that we have to do something. We have to help. Like I still have family in Trinidad, still have friends down there, and I couldn't see it being sort of fear that I'm enjoying a certain standard of living. These people, our people, are struggling, you know, I mean, they're paying for, the roads are a mess, everything's a mess, and Philip keeps saying that Trinidad is the third wealthiest in the Western Hemisphere. You know what I'm saying? Where did all this money go? So that's why we took on this task in June of 2018 to see what we, living away in Canada, can do to help the movement. Are you there?
Yeah, we're here. We're listening very intently to your story of how you got involved.
It's strange how things happen. I mean, I don't know if too many people know this, but I had an issue, a health issue, 22 years ago, where my heart stopped beating.
Wow.
I mean, cardiac arrest, yeah.
You call that death?
Yes, because they had to use the paddles to bring me back. No, I always think of that time, and I don't believe if I'm in Trinidad I would be alive today. That's a sad thing to say, but it's reality.
Yeah, that's reality.
It just so happened I got up that morning. I had pressure on my chest, and I said to Joan, I said, I think we should go to emergency. Just so happens that the hospital was like 5 minutes away, and we drove down there. Got admitted. The nurses checked me out, had me hooked up, and she said, everything looks good, but just relax, and they'll come and take you for a few additional tests. And that was it. Next thing you know, my bed is surrounded. I mean, literally surrounded by a dozen doctors and nurses, and I still didn't clue in as to what had happened, because I figured they'd come to take me for that test that the nurses were talking about. But no, one of the nurses said to me, she says, we almost lost you. And then I realized, oh my God. And then I realized I was wearing a mask, and then they said to me, we had to administer this $5,000 clot busting drug. Imagine that. I mean, she said $5,000, but after that ordeal where I had to go and have bypass surgery was fast tracked, so like in the space of a couple of days I was taken by ambulance from that particular hospital to St. Mike's and had my surgery and was sent back home to recuperate, and I was given a bill, and the bill was for like $25, but the bill was for the TV in the room.
What?
That's what the bill was for, the TV in the room, because they treat us well, but you have to pay for certain things. And what's the TV?
Yeah.
Yes.
So your $5,000 bill of your $5,000 Canadian bill.
$5,000 was for the drug that they had to administer at the time of my incident, when my heart stopped beating, my cardiac arrest. That was just for the drug. But everything else, including the surgery, would have cost a lot more money. And I never saw the bill because, we have that in Ontario, it's called OHIP. And it covers patients, it covers residents in case of an accident or what have you. You can go in there and be treated. You don't have to worry about, oh my God, I can't pay this bill. That also affords us, you want to go to the doctor, you have an issue, you have a common cold, or you want to go for a checkup, all these things are covered. You don't have to take out your money and pay the doctor. So we're fortunate in that respect. And the same should apply to my fellow citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. I mean, according to what Philip is saying, it's like $5 or $6 billion spent, budgeted and spent on our care. And I don't know where that money is going to, and I would love to know where that money is going.
None of us know, Anthony. None of us know.
Because, especially the San Fernando Hospital. Oh my God. I remember back in the day when I was a student, and one of our teachers was very ill, and he was at the San Fernando Hospital. I'm talking, like, I this was the state of the San Fernando Hospital. It was horrible. And from what I am hearing, nothing has changed. So that to me is unbelievable, knowing the amount of money that has passed through Trinidad and Tobago.
Anthony, you want to hear something even better? 2 days ago, I spoke to a doctor from, well, she's a student doctor and she has to do rotations across Trinidad and Tobago. And she told me that San Fernando is actually the best hospital that she has worked at. So can you imagine what that says for the others? If your experience was that it was so terrible, can you imagine what that means for Port of Spain and Mount Hope and Sangre Grande Hospital?
That's terrible. I mean, I remember when I had my incident, I was put in intensive care right after surgery. And I was assigned one nurse who looked after me exclusively. Now, it's not because I paid extra or whatever. That's how the system worked. She was there, you know, giving me water. I mean, unbelievable care.
First world healthcare treatment.
Like you would have to pay for in Trinidad. We got it for free.
You know what kind of treatment he got there? He got the treatment that rank gets you in Trinidad. The only time you get that kind of treatment is if you have rank.
Yeah, you don't need rank here. You don't even need fat quality. You know, it's like a right that Canadians have and a right that Trinidadians should too. Anyhow, enough about me.
Tell us a little bit more about fundraising as it is right now in PEP Canada. I know you just wrapped up a very successful event about 2 weeks ago.
Yes. It was suggested by one of our members, Gary Felix. He said that Carnival Saturday was sort of an important day for Trinidadians. So he suggested that we have like a carnival jump up on that day. So try to mirror what's happening in Trinidad. So we organized this carnival jump up and we held it at the Calypso Hut in Brampton. And Gary was the one who sort of ran with it because he's more familiar with putting on these types of events. And as I said to you before, we were very nervous. I'm talking about Joan, myself, and Gaj Ramlal, who is a key member of our group. We weren't selling enough tickets on our own, and we were worried, oh my God, this was going to be a bust. But Gary promoted and he sold tickets, and on that night, we saw the people pour in.
I saw
which was so encouraging, you know. I mean, Joan was at the door collecting tickets and collecting money, you know, and it was a good night. People had fun, so much fun in the sense that on May the 9th, we're planning to go back to the Calypso Hut to do, I think right now, we have an orange kind of theme happening. We'll do something similar as what we did recently.
Very nice.
Now, our success in Toronto, like we started off in June of 2018, it's because we have some members who want to help, who are passionate the same way we are. You know, members like Gaj Ramlal, we have David Bruno Holt, we have Devika Ali, Joel Kisoon, Lisa Gobin, Diane Saldana, Arnold Jaglal, Kamal Lochan, and of course Joan and myself. You know, we try to raise funds because we know that Philip had said and always says that he's not going to take money from people in Trinidad who will be looking for a big payback. It's the payback that has Trinidad in the state that it's in today.
Yeah.
It's the payback for everyone. You know, they give you $10 and they want $10,000 in return. This is what is happening. This is what has happened in the President's House restoration, in the Red House restoration. This is robbery in broad daylight. Come on, people of Trinidad and Tobago, just look around. You do not have to put up with crap like that. So, with that, we started off with the barrel sales. As you know, every time we try to send on as many barrels with a variety of stuff that can be sold to contribute. It's our little way of contributing to PEP. We have member monthly donations, which I am hoping that we can increase. We have a meeting actually on Saturday to do some further planning, and at that meeting we plan to hand over some cash to Kezia Rampol, who will be coming out to Trinidad very soon. That would be from the proceeds of the Carnival Jumper.
Very nice. And we're looking forward to having Kezia join us here for the launch of our candidates on March the 21st.
Yes. Yes, so these are the things that we're doing. We're always planning, and we always, we've done the casino bus trip. We did something last year, what is it again? Oh, yeah, Backing Times dance that we had. We don't have, money to put on these events. We sort of fly by night. We're fortunate that we can go to places like the Calypso Hut, and they wouldn't demand that we put a deposit or anything like that. So we sort of operate hoping that we sell tickets, and we have done well so far. And I believe we have contributed quite a bit of money since we started supporting PEP from Toronto. Now, I should mention, we have an email that people can contribute to, PEP Toronto 2018, because that's when we started, at gmail.com. It's PEP Toronto 2018 at gmail.com. Now, why this is important, anyone in Canada can send us by e-transfer a donation. So this is what I'm putting out to everyone, to Trinis living in Canada. It's not exclusively for the Toronto and the GTA, but it's for everyone in Canada. If you want to contribute to PEP, you can send that e-transfer to the address on the screen, and we will take your money on behalf of the PEP in Trinidad.
All right, so I'll just put that link up on the screen for you, so they should be able to see how you can donate to the PEP if you're based in Canada or Toronto. Yeah?
It's a very transparent system where the money comes in, gets straight into the account. This account, while not in the name of PEP, because for obvious reasons, we cannot open an account with PEP because it's just not allowed. So this account is opened by me exclusively for PEP. Nothing else happens in that account but PEP business. So member donations go in there, ticket sales, people can send money in, donations, what have you, comes in there, and it gives you a line by line entry of who sent money and how much they sent money. So it's completely transparent. And what Joan, who looks after the books, he would send that information to Gaj Ramla, who is sort of like, he oversees to make sure that things are up and above board. So he double checks what we do and stuff like that. It's a kind of oversight that we have.
Nice.
Very nice.
Yeah, so it's not just a one-man show here. It's my myself, it's Joan, it's all those members that have called, and we are inviting others to come on board. We need more members, we need more help. We want to make 2020 a very successful fundraising year. So this is an opportunity for everyone listening or looking on to come and join with us, and we have a page. Just add your name. Come on, ask to be added to the list of members. Donate. Ask how you can help. It's not for me. It's for all of us. I mean, I have two grandsons that I would love to come down and visit me in Trinidad, because eventually I want to get down there and get out of this cold weather. It's not nice. And I mean, Akil was just talking about he was planning on coming to Canada. Well,
prepare yourself for the cold. Right now he having a cold weather jacket right now in the AC, and the AC is on 17 degrees. How is he going to deal? How is he going to deal with -0 degree weather? Anthony, I want to thank you very much for joining us on the call this morning. I have just about 20 minutes, and I have to have an interview with Michelle Davis, the head of our South Hub. But how can they reach out to you if they want to be a part of the PEP Toronto team?
Well, they can go to our group page, which is PEP Toronto chapter. They can also send an email to peptoronto2018@gmail.com.
Okay.
They can also call 416-284-1201. That's my home line. Or they can text at 416-268-5558. Just get in touch.
Get in touch and get involved.
Yeah, get involved, and let's show Trinidad what Canada can do.
Woo.
You know, so
I like that.
Yeah, that's it.
I like it. I love that. Anthony, thank you for all of the hard work that you're doing in PEP Canada. Thank you for joining us on the call this morning. Tell Joan we're sorry for waking her up this early, because I'm assuming she has...
Joan gets up really early in the morning.
Okay.
She's the one.
Well then, Joan, thank you for waking up Anthony this morning for join us on this call. Anthony, we will talk. Thank you very much again.
Thanks, Anthony.
My pleasure. Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye. You just heard from the chairman of our New York chapter, Denise Xavier Superville, and the chairman of our PEP Toronto chapter. We're going to take a quick break and come back with the head of our South Hub, Michelle Davis. We will be right back. Like that.
Antel is Trinidad's most reliable and technically experienced ICT company, providers of quality structured cabling, Cat6 data fiber and power cables. We also stock cabling infrastructure basket-type cable trays for server rooms and data centers. Antel also installs and maintains video security systems including cameras, alarms and electronic entrance locks for businesses and residential properties. Call Antel 674-1406 or 783-9250.
The gentleman has a wealth of knowledge and experience, and it's time that we tapped into it, because we can't just keep focused on what's wrong if we don't start having a conversation about what could be right. And I'm here with Mr. Bastio Pandey, former Prime Minister. Is there anything you want to say, getting the ball rolling? The lead off, anything you want to ask, anything, because it's a conversation, it's not an interview.
Yes, shoot from both hips.
We are back, and from that very cool clip that we just saw today, this evening, tonight, we are premiering a special episode of Plain Talk with none other than Mr. Basdeo Pandey himself. I don't think any of you want to miss that. We kept that as a little secret under wraps real tight because we wanted to surprise Trinidad and Tobago. That was an on-site Plain Talk special interview with Mr. Pandey. Akil, are you tuning into that?
Yeah.
You don't have a choice. You're a pepper.
I wonder here what our ex-prime minister has to say.
I need to hear what that interview was about. I wasn't even allowed in the studio to hear, so I'm excited. We are going to now reach out to Miss Michelle Davis from South.
Well, good morning.
Good morning, Michelle. You are live and direct in the PEP Studios.
Good morning, Michelle.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Peppers, both local and foreign.
Michelle, time to take a U-turn. Michelle Davis, our very own author, writer, editor. She sends in letters to the editor ever so often, and she published, or one of her articles was actually published, Take a U-Turn, Trinidad and Tobago. And Michelle, thank you for joining us this morning. You want to talk a little bit more about that article and what it was about?
Yes, thank you for having me. Basically, the article was addressing the new, latest revenue generating initiative by our current administration. Basically what it is, it's the driving violation fines that are being implemented on the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. So while I do stand for driving initiatives, driving safety, I am concerned as a driver on the road every day with the driving safety, the driving deaths. What I am concerned with is where is the revenue going from the collection of these violations. Last year it was projected, actually was calculated, $171 million was collected in traffic violations alone. And being citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, living in Trinidad, being on the road every day, there's absolutely no evidence of where this money is being spent. Their roads are past deplorable. Literally, we're in pothole nation, as I stated in the article. There is no sign of this money being spent back to the citizens in terms of driver safety, driving technology, driver education, social programs, whereas in the US and Canada and Europe, the revenue from these violations go back to the citizenry. And basically what they do, they go as far as social programs within the country. They fund road refurbishment. They fund driver education programs. They fund local government programs. So my question today is, where is this money going?
That's a really good question, because Michelle, you also mentioned the fact that we have this pitch lake and our roads are in the most deplorable conditions. So what are we using this money to do if not pave the roads, if not develop the country further? We are, and I had this charted as a topic to talk about today, we are taking loans to develop the infrastructure in Trinidad and Tobago. Actually, we took a loan last year from the IDB for over $200 million to develop the road network system in Trinidad and Tobago, but we're not even seeing the results of that.
Exactly, and I mean, you have to think about it in terms of where's the money going. All of these loans have been taken. There's a road pavement, 120 million US, almost equivalent to 1 billion TT. And that was taken recently. And there has been, a little, but we call it election paving. It hasn't been any benefit to the hardcore structure of the roads in Trinidad. It's basically the main roads. So what about the side roads? What about the communities? What about, Deep South that has been, neglected for so long? After Oropouche, basically you're riding on almost a track. And when we look at our roads, we have to ask ourselves as citizens, is this a reflection of an oil-rich nation or once oil-rich nation? Where is our money going? Why are we taking out so many loans? Yesterday there's a tourism loan now. For what? To study?
There's also a WASA loan.
Yeah.
Do you know this same CAF, not sure the breakdown, is actually within the last 3 years is $800 million in
Yeah,
loans.
we have taken over $800 million in loans to so-called develop our country, but we're not seeing it. Like Michelle said, the roads in our rural communities, the roads that actually need the paving, the ones that are constantly neglected around election time.
That's potholes with Pisa Road in it.
Well, the potholes with the Pisa Road that need the attention the most are the areas that are lacking the most. And Trinbagonians, and when we ask the questions, where's the money going, it's because not the roads that need paving, like Michelle rightfully said, it's not just our highways and the main roads and the streets that we know. It's in these communities that need these networks even more than these main roads. That's how they commute, that's how they get around. Where is the money going?
That's the big question.
Exactly. I mean, when last have you seen a new stoplight? I mean, we're driving technology-wise, where are we going? And we continue to latest and greatest, initiatives are revenue generating, but the poor man and the average man feels it. While I'm not promoting unsafe driving, can you imagine, I pointed out in the article that basically the $1,000 fine is literally the U.S. equivalent of a U.S. ticket. So who came up with these astronomical fees? You and I know the average citizen is not even clearing $5,000, $6,000 a month. Yeah. So to pay $1,000 or more, I'm talking the bottom line. That was the minimum. Tickets are going as high as 10,000 or so forth. But can you imagine? Yes, you are breaking the law. Yes, there must be a penalty. But who did the calculation? Because it's the U.S. equivalent, and we continue to be fined in terms of, are we making U.S. in this country? We are not making close to U.S. equivalent salaries. So why is everything calculated on a U.S. basis? You and I know we're struggling to get $100. And, citizens have to start asking pertinent questions. The Progressive Empowerment Party doesn't need to tell you this. You're actually living this. For any driver on the road, do you ask yourself why aren't they paving this road? Where are my tax dollars going? And we need to start asking the relevant questions that we so deserve as citizens, right? I think we're passive when it comes to that.
You made a point there that I want to harp on, which is that we applying fines, these very steep and very expensive fines, yet the road conditions are in no way mirroring what we're supposed to well, they're not reflecting the penalties that you're supposed to get if you break the rules. There are places, Michelle, that I drive, there's been a broken traffic light for the longest while by the corner of
Ithic Road?
Not Ithic Road, right there in, by Cipriani Boulevard and Pragrade Road. That traffic light was knocked down years ago. So that if you are a driver and you are literally at the corner of the road, the traffic lights ahead of you, there's none, but you have to look behind you because there's a traffic light on the side of the street to see when the light changes, or wait until you see the cars going in the cross direction, stop, because then you're assuming they stop because they have a red light, so that means now I have a green light. You're not developing or putting the proper infrastructure in place for people to not only adhere to road rules, but ensure that they don't get these fines. So somebody now, they break that light and they get a fine. Whose fault is it really? Is it theirs? Or is it the fact that we have not put proper road and traffic infrastructure for people to follow?
Exactly. I mean, and when you're coming from south, as everyone knows, I'm living deep south. So you're constantly in a hurry to get in to Port of Spain on time. But there's so many obstacles in terms of road maintenance. The potholes, coming up alone delays your commute. And, delays your commute easily, sometimes 32 minutes to an hour, because people literally cannot pass over the potholes. They have to wait for the oncoming traffic in order to pass. So you have these life and death situations every day on our roads in this nation, but yet we're saying, hey, penalize the average driver. And then imagine you're rushing up to get to work on time. You're only allowed so much tardiness. And then, but again, literally a pothole was the reason for your delay, because no one can pass it safely. So, we have to start asking, where did $171 million go last year?
Indeed.
That we saw the benefit. Where is this money going?
And what about the road tax on the gas?
Correct. What about the inspection taxes? We asked that last year when there was that mad rush for that inspection tax, that inspection fee, inspection tax. Where does that go? Is that for road safety? Is that for road refurbishment? If so, why are we taking out $1 billion loan for our roads? Why are we doing that? Why are we incurring debt that as a nation we are already sinking in it, and we will be paying for generations?
And I want to touch on that topic when we come off with Michelle. Michelle, I really want to thank you for joining us this morning. I am booking you next week, Tuesday. If you can, please come on and co-host with me. I mean, I love you, Akil, and I love having Lima on this evening, this Tuesday. Tomorrow, I'm going to be on with Natalia for an hour with the youth arm. But Michelle, I would love if you join us. I think you and I made such an awesome combo on the CNC show last year that we're going to mash them up again if we have the opportunity. So let me know if you can come on and co-host with me.
And for those that are listening, please give the Progressive Empowerment Party a chance, a view, look at our policies. We are making sense. We are changing the direction of this country. We are fighting for the country and the citizens that so deserve better governance. Thank you very much, everyone, and have a great day.
Before you leave, Michelle, I do want to wish your mommy happy 95 years. Today's Michelle's mommy birthday. Woo! Celebration. Just imagine that we're throwing confetti on her 95 years strong. Michelle, I know you went through some ups and downs with mommy, but the Lord has kept her around long enough for her to celebrate this very monumental day. And please wish her happy birthday with lots of love from the entire PEP family. All that love from Michelle's mom.
I will. I'm going to show her all the posts and everything. I'll send it from my niece. She's in Los Angeles, but I'm looking forward to giving her a call in a few hours as soon as she wakes up. Thank you again, and vote PEP.
Vote PEP.
Bye.
We just have about 4 minutes to touch on everything that we didn't even get to take calls today, but I think we had such a nice full program that it wasn't even missed. She said something there, and that was one of the things we had to talk about, Aki, and I'm glad that you brought it up. $800 million US. We are going to be, our children and our children's children are going to be repaying loans through their teeth and noses and ears for decades to come.
That will include the 200 from last weekend.
That does not include the 200 million that they borrowed for the tourism board. For the tourism in development.
A billion US?
We have borrowed $1 billion US in the past.
$1 billion US.
How many years?
Oh shit, that's 3 years.
In the past 3 years. Besides Napa, Sapa, Tapa, the president's house, Red House.
I'm gonna remind me.
Besides that, what the hell do we have to show for it? And sorry to say it like that, but a nation is not how many pretty buildings you have. A nation is not how much money you can spend to renovate, to bring back national pride. National pride and real national pride and real nation building is when you can look around and access healthcare service without the hassle, when you can go to the hospitals and get a bed, when you can be in a condition like Anthony Sinanan explained to us a while ago, where he had a hospital visit and his bill was $25, not for his treatment but for the in-room TV system or service that he used. Real nation building.
No, but our Prime Minister said the nation has the best public healthcare system in the Commonwealth, right? And although that is so, Franklin Khan goes away for treatment. Manin used to go to Cuba for treatment. Pandey went to London for treatment, right? Kamala made US trips also, right?
Maxi Coffee and Keith Rowley both
exactly. Why? Okay, if we have the best healthcare, why are you not using your own healthcare? And if it is okay, it's not that good, make it that good.
Make it that good indeed, because for those who are left to use the system that we have, it's not fair, it's not right that this country is spending billions of dollars all around, but the citizens, the ones who are responsible for the billions, the ones who pay in road tax, the ones who pay in VAT, the ones who pay in vehicle tax, the ones who pay in tax all through our nose, because everything in this country is a tax. Tax upon tax upon tax. The ones who are funding the government should be the ones to receive the best treatment. The money that we're spending in public, in health right now, Akil, I can go to Sagicor and insure myself with way less than that. For less money that we're spending in healthcare, each citizen of this nation can insure themselves and get first class healthcare in places like West Shore and Sinclair and St. Augustine Hospital. That's what we could do privately. So for the spending 100 times that in the public health system, we should be getting and seeing way more.
And the thing is, I told a customer once, I can't remember what I was doing for them, and they were like, okay, that good or not that good? I was like, no, wait, hold on, I'm gonna show you what is good, and in the future, if anybody else working for you, this is what the demand of them. Don't accept something inferior. Or in fact, some people just don't know. They don't know what's good, right? So they go to the institutions and what they get, they presume that's the best they could get. Now, you being the Prime Minister or whoever minister, going away and getting this treatment up there and then coming back here and knowing to yourself, we don't have that treatment down here. Why can't you take it upon yourself to make sure or to champion the cause to get the public institutions, to get the hospitals performing like what you have up there, so the next time you need that, you can get it down here? Why? In fact, you might need it, your family might need it, and they mightn't have the rank.
Rank has its privileges.
I saying
Trinidad and Tobago,
because it's rank.
Rank has its privileges. We are completely out of time because these 2 hours that usually seem so daunting at the beginning just happens to fly when the conversation is really good. We spoke a lot about healthcare this morning and the fact that we have such a failed healthcare system. We spoke about the Progressive Empowerment Party's approach to healthcare and how we will decentralize healthcare and health and hospitals to the 41 constituencies, providing 24/7 emergency and accident treatment should you need it. Should you fall and break your hip at 4 o'clock in the morning, you don't have to wait until 8 the next morning to be transferred to Sandy Grande or Port of Spain General Hospital in an emergency. We would like to thank you for joining us this morning, March the 5th, 2020. I will be back tomorrow morning with Natalia Moore, the head of our youth arm, to co-host with her. So I would be and letting her lead the conversation tomorrow. But
I really wanted to get in a little bit into tourism because
we didn't. Aki, stick a pin because trust me, we have lots and lots of shows like these to happen again. I love having you as my co-host, and if you would be here 6 o'clock on the dot, I will have you back next week, Thursday. Trinidad and Tobago, thank you for joining us on yet another episode of Pep Talks in the Morning. I'll see you tomorrow and stay safe.
The gentleman has a wealth of knowledge and experience, and it's time that we tapped into it because we can't just keep focused on what's wrong if we don't start having a conversation about what could be right. And I'm here with Mr. Bastio Pandey, former Prime Minister. Is there anything you want to say, getting the ball rolling? The lead off, anything you want to ask, anything, because it's a conversation, it's not an interview.
Yes, shoot from both hips.
Both hips.